I don't know where that voice comes from, but now it tells you, like in this robot lady voice, that the recording has started.
I'm like, okay, good to know.
Yeah, it started now. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, today I've got a friend with me. I've known Colton for what, about 12,
Yeah,
12 years.
that is crazy. Wow.
And it's good to have him on today. His name's Colton Tran. He's an actor and a writer and a director, and I do this whole list of accolades that all my guests have, and you have some of the longest. So I mean, you got started at a young age, and I think it was like, I was just reading through IMDb because I have to refresh myself and try to keep current on what everybody's doing. And I know everything's not on there, but you've done quite a bit. But I thought I'd bring you on today, and we can talk about you and how we met,
Yes.
and where you're at now and where you're headed, because I think that's a fascinating story. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Colton Tran.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy we're getting to do this because it's like you said, we've known each other for 12 years now, which is insane to me because that just seems like 12 years
It
just flew by.
flew. It
It really
flew
did.
by. It was.
And I also was like, I feel like I was like 18, 19 or something when we did Monstrosity. And I don't even know. It's crazy. So, but yeah, so I just can't believe because now like after I was in LA, I mean Utah, I met you and worked on projects out there. I moved to LA and now I've been here. It'll be 10 years in December, which is nuts.
Holy cow.
So
Yeah, because you were only in Utah for a little bit longer after. So we'll talk a little bit about Monstrosity, because that's not how we met. So how we
on the set
met,
before that. Okay, yeah.
no, how we met was there was the release of Vampires Suck,
I remember this.
and it was Jake Jensen had hired you and Jamie Anthony. And
to do the Twilight look on.
yeah, and so I was like, who's that guy? And he's like, oh, that's Colton, this is Jamie, they're good. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I think that's how we got to talking. And you're like, I'm working on this project, and you do photos, and would you be interested? I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I've never been on a set. I'd never been in any aspect of like a filming side of things. Like, I was very new as far as my concert photography and working for radio stations and doing and basically helping Jake out. So you were all within that first year. So I remember getting on your set, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And then this is how I learned that my camera was super loud, because I think it was Spencer. Was it Spencer that was your sound guy?
I don't remember.
Neil.
It was. I seriously. It's so funny you mentioned this because I was looking back at like all the sets I've like directed and stuff. I'm like, I need to be so much better at like knowing like because on my DPs I always know who they are and everything. I'm like, who are my sound people? Because I need a sound person for tomorrow. And I'm like, like why can't I think of one person I worked with? But yeah, I don't know who it was exactly, but that I know what you're talking about. This is hilarious.
So you'd everybody was silent, and I was like, oh, this would be a great time to take some shots, and my Canon was just like and they're like, cut okay, who's got the camera? And I'm like, I don't know what.
You throw it, I don't know, not me.
I was like, oh god. So what's funny, like the follow-up to that was they had done this interview at it was like 1079, and they brought in One Republic, because at that point they just released another album. So I was sitting like watching the interview, and I was like, this would be a great time for a shot. And the same issue, and Ryan Tedder just looks over at me, like over his shoulder, and just gives me this look. I was like, son of a bitch, I did it again.
You're like, so that's when my photography career ended.
Yeah, that's when it ended. No, that's one of those learning things, because I knew nothing about like your industry, but thankful through you and Adam Wiley may pop in. I don't know if you know who he is, but is known for like Kindergarten Cop and a ton of other things. So he may pop in because he's my co-host. But yeah, and so I met you, and I met some really great people through that one experience, like Keith Hodinger and Chris Hansen, who made your monster.
All my special effects.
Yeah, and that was such a good experience, and I was like, this is pretty dope. I could do this. This is so neat.
See, but it's funny because that set, I mean, for being your first set to come onto, was already like something unique for what people usually shoot in Utah, because usually it's like typically like, you're just basic, like it's like a comedy or a drama or whatever. Like the projects that I was producing and directing out there were very like fantastical, whimsical, and so it was things that you typically don't see produced often. Like Chris Hansen makes all these monsters, and that's like my world, and where all my films and stories exist. And so it was cool that you got to experience that, I feel like, for one of the first sets, because it was just so different. And it was one of my
because I mean, everybody thinks of Utah and they think of the typical things, and they don't think horror film or like a fantasy horror or anything like that. And I was just kind of like, okay, all right, Utah's got its little quirks, but I was finding out it had like a nightlife and DJs, and I was like, there's a whole nother side of Utah. Like that could be a whole separate podcast.
Oh,
just so many things that nobody sees because it's below surface level, and so, oh yeah, I'm forever thankful for that experience, because that was just a blast. And I have my one accolade on IMDb now. Thank you, Colton.
Thanks for that. No, honestly, I thank you for being a part of that, because we got so many great photos from you, and like
the poster was awesome.
Yeah,
that turned out so good. And then I guess shortly, it was just a couple years, or you moved and I moved. You moved to California to pursue your careers and your dream, and I moved to South Carolina for the humidity and barbecue.
And you're like, and that turned out really well.
Yeah, that was great. Well, needless to say, if you don't know, I'm back in Utah. So
you're like, yeah, I don't know. I will probably find myself back in Utah one day when I like have a place here and a place there, because I mean, I feel like a lot of people end up in Park City area because it's so beautiful there, and I love Utah in general. And my whole family.
I really want to go to Sundance. Out of all the years that I've never been. So Dave Hill, he's a comedian and he's hilarious. And I've been dying just to go hang out with him, because I've been talking to him for just a little bit longer than I've been talking to you. Okay. And I finally had a chance to catch up with him and everything. And it's like, last year, so this is for the people listening in the future. So we had this giant pandemic thing that it was ridiculous and shut everything down. And so it halted meeting all these people and catching up, and just breaks on everything. So whenever I can get to Sundance, I want to go so bad, because
I've been so many times, and it's funny because when I was actually shooting the first year I moved to LA, I booked as an actor a Disney Channel movie, and it was funny because like literally only lived in LA for about like 2-3 months and booked that. And so, but it shot in Utah, so flew back to Utah only like 3 months after moving here. And was there for a couple months, but it fell during our shooting time was during January, like when Sundance happened. So it was a really cool experience to be shooting something while Sundance was going on. But otherwise, I've been there for like many different festivals, and I mean like films up there and screenings, and they have like a bunch of workshops that are really cool. So growing up, I started going there when I was like 16, 17, just to like be part of all of it and see what it's all about. Oh, that's
cool. Well, I'm finding out a lot in your industry, film in general, that you have to network. Like there's a lot of, it's not necessarily essentially like I just mixed two words, necessary and essentially, and essentially came out. All right.
That's a good one.
I'm gonna write that down for later. But but everybody, it's not like elbow rubbing, but I'm finding like your community, like what you work within, you guys all talk to each other and network, and that's important. So I think it's pretty cool that you're at a young age just at Sundance and just enjoying things. you know.
I think, well, a big part of that was growing up. My next door neighbor actually was a film director, producer, and sadly he just passed away this last month.
No,
Um,
no.
but he was like my mentor. He's like he taught me, like his daughter was my same age. We lived next door to each other, and so he was like, "You guys, I want to teach you how to like start making movies." And so because we like fell in love with watching his process, so we started editing on iMovie like 12, 13, and then like literally 6 months after that, he made us learn Final Cut. So like editing on Final Cut, learning Photoshop at like such a young age. Um, it's one of those things that I knew like so much about the craft at a young age that like it was easier to network for me because I knew what I was talking about with people. So a lot of people on my sets were people who were like veterans and people who worked for a long time. So it was an interesting dynamic growing up and being a director, especially going straight into like a 17-year-old director, on a set where people, all around you are all older than you too, because then you have that weird balance where people are like, they either love it or some people were like, why is this kid telling me what to do? Do you know what I'm saying? But like, you're also
Yeah.
trying to do a
Yeah.
project. So it was an interesting experience growing up as a young filmmaker and seeing how the dynamics of like your crew and it all kind of
Well, I mean, at a young age, you kind of had to have your crap together, because the way I've seen you direct, you orchestrate it. And I'm just speaking from a monstrosity standpoint,
yeah.
but you orchestrated everything so well, and it flowed so nicely. Like everybody knew where they were supposed to be, and you were just kind of like, okay, I need you here, I need you over here, and I need this, and I need this. Like, you know exactly what you're talking about.
See, that's great to hear that. And because I feel like that is one thing that I really push for in all my sets is to make sure everyone's on the exact same page. Like I'm very like structured with my shot lists, my storyboards, the visuals, like, and have very specific conversations with every person on set so they know what's going on and we're all just on the same page. And that is one thing that's been cool, that's been a constant throughout my film career is even the thing I just directed for Disney Channel. They were like, you have a really big shot list here. Like we trust you because we brought you on to do this, but that's a lot to do in a day. And especially during that pandemic, a full day would be 12 hours typically, and now it's cut down to 10 because the COVID rules.
Yeah,
And
because you've
so
got testing before you go on to set and everything. And
it was all such a crazy process, and like masks and like the shields, and if like since I'm directing this, like I'm close to talent, so you have to be wearing like all these things. And so now it's 10 hours, but if you think about it, there's hour setup, hour like breakdown, and that counts as your time. So we basically had 8 hours to shoot everything. And but we wrapped ahead of time, and like everything that I've done, we've never gone over, because I think it's just about making sure everyone's on the same page, and also just having a good time. Like I've, as a kid too, like I was on a bunch of different sets, and all sizes, and I just really try to absorb what the directors would do and how they would behave and stuff, because I've seen all different types, where the director, this type who they get really mad and they start yelling at people because it's like fear based, like they want people to get scared, which they do. Then they're like, oh shit, I have to work. But then like they're scared though, like they're gonna mess up or this or whatever. And I feel like it makes it a lot harder for people to work under those conditions. And so I just want to make and if I have an issue with something, with like, there's something wrong, I'll like pull my producer over and be like, hey, so there's something wrong. And it's just between us. Because then if other people see this happening, it's like a domino effect. They're like, crap, something's wrong, something's going on. And then people just tend to not work as hard, or they try to work even harder. And then it's like always so forced. And it's interesting. I think I found a really good balance of the way of bringing like an energy onto set where people are having a good time, but also they are having a good time, so they're working just as hard. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
your energy all the way around has always been pretty laid back, but very structured. But even just as a photographer on your set, I didn't feel stressed. I was corrected as like that. Your shutter's really loud, so let's just wait till after this scene, and then you can grab a couple shots. They'll stand by, and it's like, oh, okay, all right. And your approach was just it. I learned more that way than somebody just giving me the evil eye.
Well, when you're gonna not want to be there either, you know what I mean? Like I was so grateful, and so like I'm so grateful for everyone that's ever been involved in any of my films, because people just want to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like if you were yelled at or like something happened, where you're like, well, first of all, I'm here because I want to be here. Like, but you'd been like, I don't want to be here tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, so you just want people to have a good time and love what they're doing. And I just feel like the key is just making your crew and talent, everyone around you just feel comfortable and happy. Even if there's like something else going on behind the scenes, that's the key word, behind the scenes. It should stay there. You know, it should be between you and someone else, and it should not be affecting the cast. It should not be affecting people who doesn't need to be affecting. So yeah,
well, ultimately it's your guidance that makes the film work. So I mean, if they're relaxed, it shows on camera. Like the first thing I did, like starting this whole thing, was I was talking to Hal Sparks, and I was getting his feedback because he does his own YouTube show and all that. And Hal's always composed, and I'm like, okay. And then I was having a chat with him just like this, and I was looking all over the place, and I was rewatching. I was like, oh, okay, it's probably good that I watched this, because camera picks up everything. It's not forgiving.
Yeah,
it can make you look real dumb real quick.
And you're like, and it's like recorded and it's out there, especially once it's out there. You're like, cool, it's out there forever now.
Yeah, everybody can see this now. So let's see. Yeah, you worked on Cloud9. I found that out because I was in Walmart. And I was like, holy crap. All right, there's Colton again. He's got his shirt on this time.
Very rare occurrence.
It is. Okay, so if you don't know Colton, he's very fit and he doesn't wear a shirt most of the time. And so to see him with a big poofy jacket on was weird. So you did that work for Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And did I see where you just directed a music video?
Yeah, so that was cool because I was, an actor with them, and then I started directing for them. So I just directed a music video for their Zombies franchise, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. And Disney was very pleased, so it was cool. It's just good keeping like a good relationship with them, and because we can continue to work on stuff in the future. That's
good. I mean, that's just building with your resume with them. I mean, it's not like they're bad people to be with.
No, like, I've worked with them several times now, and it's just they're such a great company, and when you are in good with them, and especially if they trust you, like they're reaching out to me asking me to come direct something. That's just like they really have to like trust people, because it's like a machine. It goes through when they bring somebody on. It's not like it's just one person that's kind of like calling the shots. It has to go up through all the suits, as I call it, and they have to approve everything. And it was an interesting process because usually a lot of my projects are my own content, my own stories and creations, and so I have a lot more control in that. But like with it's something that I brought to them, and now it has to be approved all the way up to a different scale and a level. But when they reached out to me, the producers, they were like, it's interesting because you gave your visuals, your pitch and stuff, and usually that takes a while to get approved, and usually we have so many notes. He's like, they literally approved this concept and the visuals and everything like the day of. And so like it's and that, like I was telling you before, like I'm very specific with storyboards, visual shot lists, just so that everyone knows exactly what's about to happen, and then the process usually happens quicker.
Well, you've done a few things that I've been able to kind of follow you with, but what was the first film that you did? It was, what was it called?
In Utah?
What is it?
In Utah, you mean? Like my first movie ever?
Well, there was Unpleasantville.
Oh, Unpleasantville, yeah.
Yeah, Unpleasantville, and then I think after it, you've got a style about you. So like if you watch like a Tim Burton movie, know it's a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
And anything I've seen you create, it's definitely your movie. Like there's a kind of a spooky, like it's almost Tim Burton-esque.
I love that you're saying this though, that you're saying it's your own vibe, image, and its own like style, because when I first moved to LA, I got signed by a management company like literally months after, and then an agency, and I was like with one of the top agents. They still am. I was with CAA for a long time, then I actually moved to Abrams because I was like, I just want to see what the dynamic would be, because I have a lot of friends over there. But they oh my gosh, sorry, my thing's about to like fall off. So I don't even, what was I'm sorry, I literally forgot what I was saying because that almost fell off.
What were we talking? Oh, you were talking about your agency, agent.
I was trying to think why I even brought up the agent in the first place. Sorry.
Because we were talking about my observation that your films have continuity to them.
So he was saying when he started representing me, he represented a lot of big people, and he's like, the thing about your style is like, I've represented other people who are trying to make Tim Burton movies, and it's like it feels like a ripoff. It feels like the style is being ripped off, and that's a lot. He's like, a lot of people do that when they wear, or anybody's like, yours is its own style. It's like definitely inspired by him, but you never once watch it being like, this person's trying to rip off someone else's
Yeah,
style.
like that came straight out of Beetlejuice, or
Well, you know, so that was the cool thing, is that he's like, it's its own thing. And like, even though clearly every filmmaker and every artist is inspired by some sort of other person, you know, in their art form, definitely have my inspirations, but I think we've found a really cool like balance of what that is, you know.
well, it's really hard, honestly. I mean, unless I'm not sure how your brain works. My brain works this way. I get inspired, but the thing is that it's very hard for me to create something that's just truly, truly unique with the inspiration. At some point, I will just flat out copy it.
You're, you're like, well,
I'm not good at that, you know. So like the films of yours that I've seen, I'm like, okay, I get this little piece, but it's definitely yours. Like it's not, it's just inspired. It's not a copy of, it's not, you know, taken from, you
yeah,
know. And so if anybody's listening, you need to find Unpleasantville, or you need to find any of the other things that he's been involved with, because there's definitely, it's like your own flavor. You created your own flavor, and it's
which
it's
I love
good.
that,
I
because
like it a lot.
good, I'm glad. But like you're saying, it's hard to find that, you know. And again, I'm still just out here just creating and as much as I possibly can, but it's like I have found, like you said, that flavor, but it's getting the right people to like bring up. And I feel so blessed, because I've had most of my projects come to life, you know. And now it's cool because like I'm getting in with a lot of the, you know, bigger people out here, and it's just, you see with some of the bigger stuff that I've wanted to have come to life, or happening. And so it's just cool. It's just cool to see it happen. But you know, it's interesting, as you said, like finding that flavor, that style, that's definitely like my passion, and those are the ones I want to like always do. But they're so much more expensive, and just in general, just because they're, you know, again, like you're creating monsters, you're creating whole new worlds, you're creating like miniatures, and so it's not like you're living in a realistic world, and that just becomes so much more elaborate, which takes longer. So the feature, I don't know if I told you about the feature that I just did. I directed a feature film last January, so it was right before the pandemic hit. And so it was weird, but it was actually perfect timing, because we were in post production most of so you know, we're all staying at home, but everyone can be working, so it was really cool.
Yeah.
But a year later, this January, we sold it. So it was bought by a studio, and it's gonna release this fall or winter. So I don't know, I'm super excited. It's just cool to see some of these things like progress, you know, and
So do
especially
you do you do I know that you wrote, um are you still writing?
yeah. So I wrote Unpleasantville, I wrote Monstrosity, Gloom was the one after that too.
Yeah,
That,
Gloom.
yeah, it was all in those. So
That was an
I
awesome
wrote
poster too.
that. I loved.
That's so good.
Yeah, that was such a good poster. Yeah, those projects. I'm trying to think. I wrote all those, but then there's some that I bring on, like the feature that I did. It was my concept,
Hmm.
but then I brought on one of my writer friends, and he, like, I give you like your main note, like an outline basically, and then he just writes it, because like I can't write all my stuff. The most recent one that I'm doing now, I wrote myself, but I like to write the concepts, the outlines, make sure that the story and style, everything's very specific. And then I love collaborating with different writers, because I think it's just like, and especially if you find people that you work well with, like my writer that I work with, like right now, Luke Jensen, he works so fast. Like the feature, when I gave him the concept for it, we had a script in 5 days.
Holy
Um,
crap.
but we had to shoot it over the New Year's, and so we literally called him, I think like December, like it's like 10th or something. It was crazy. Like we had a script in 5 days, did rewrites, shot a feature over the New Year's, and it all just happened so fast. We shot that feature film in 6 days.
That's
So
that's insane. I can't even write a freaking essay. Like, so uh Adam's working on something, and he's like, oh, I've been developing this for a while, and then he like did a rewrite and it was ready like the next day. Like a couple days later, I'm just like, I don't understand. So
like, how?
yeah, how does that work? It's like people that write novels, I don't understand how that happens, you know. So when somebody's got that skill set, and you're like, yeah, oh, I really need this, and they're like, oh, I gotcha, don't worry about it.
It's like, cool.
All right,
This,
all right.
see, that's why I do write most of my own stuff. because first of all, I'm very, very impatient. So it's like, Luke is fast, but I'm like, okay, I can get it done now. And then also you do, you maintain that creative vision, because when you're dealing with other people, we've run into a couple of issues with projects where it's like, you bring someone on that says they have the exact same vision, they understand where the story's going, and then it's like something complete different's happening. But then it becomes a thing where it's like they're stuck on what they're trying to write, but it's like, but this was my concept, that we need to make it feel like what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then either the project dies or it just doesn't end up what it's supposed to, you know what I mean? So I think when I do write my own stuff, the reason why I do is just because you maintain that creativity that you need to have to, what's the, that's the point in the first place, is
Yeah, you definitely got to be on the same page, because there's people that'll read your scripts and they'll be like, oh yeah, and then they'll just be like, we need to change this and this and this, and you're like, no, that's different.
Yeah, see, I'm always very open to, obviously, constructive criticism, and anyone coming back with my stuff. I love hearing that's why I like going to film festivals with my movies, because you get people's thoughts and feedbacks and things that they're like, this doesn't really connect, or if they loved it, or I'm like, actually I didn't see it that way. Like, so you're always learning from these things. But like, I don't know, I just think that it's good to be able to take that criticism and
well, I mean, that's the only way you get better. And through talking like with you and other friends, which no doubt are probably mutual friends by now,
yes.
is that I came into this whole thing. I didn't know anything about scripting. I didn't know anything about anything, and I'm realizing, like, in order for like a script to work, you've got to care about characters and character development, and like that's where the writers come in, and I don't get it, but you learn.
That you do learn, and like, see, that's one of those things I still feel like that's why I like to collaborate with people in a way that, because I'm great with like describing the world, like to creating the characters that are in this and everything that exists within it. But I like to bring people on to do more of like the creating the voice of the characters, and like making them all individual, like, you know what I mean? Because like, that's not something that I actually feel passionate about, like, as much as
Right.
So I'm like, that's where I think collaborating is really great. If you find the right people to do that, it's good. So like, I don't know. I just think it's always
there's some people that won't do that.
I know some people refuse to do it, but then like they're not making the best content they could be making.
No, I totally agree with that. I kind of look at every time I do anything, be it a concert, photography, or learning to speak to people, because this is terrifying to me, is that the more you do it and the more feedback you get and everything else, it works so much better, and you evolve, and then you're going to become you don't even know what you're going to become yet.
That was like one of the big words for me, like, this last year, was like evolving, and just because like people should always be open to that. When people are afraid of that, it's just like, there's one of my friends who just refuses to kind of like, they're like, I'm growing, I'm constantly going, but like, there's a difference between growing, I feel like, and like evolving in a way where you're adapting and letting yourself, because you're naturally going to evolve. And people who try to stop that process, I think, is just like this, when you stunt yourself like that, it's like, what? Yeah, I don't know why I'm going into that, but it's evolve was a huge word for me this last.
I get it. Well, let's just hit on evolve, because you then decided to start Trans Vinyl, which you take albums and you smash them to bits.
Don't kill me, just kidding. No, it's so funny, because
all the vinyl purists, don't be mad, they were bad to begin with. Okay,
they're recycled vinyl. But it was weird, like, like you're saying there, because when I have a passion or an idea for something, I just like go for it. And like, that was a thing. Moved to LA, was creating movies during the time as well. But then me and my producing partner, we were like, we want to like put art on the walls, but like, we weren't about to go buy something either, because I mean, I have always been an artist growing up. So that whole process spawned from something that I was going to create, and it turned into breaking them. And one of the biggest vinyl places in Hollywood wrote an article about it, and then people just started buying them, and like celebrities were buying them, and the art shows that I've had for it was very interesting how that happened. And but I still get people commissioning them to this day, So it's one of those things that I'm balancing along with the other art, but it's still it's how I you live out here. So you're making money in different ways, but also it's something in the world that I love. It's shattered vinyl, so it's and it's horror, and just I don't know. It's been cool to be able to make living in other ways too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And now you can get prints of your work. So,
Yeah.
so if you can't afford the piece, you can get the print and you can frame it and it looks great. I
Yeah.
haven't ordered one yet.
Well, I'll
So
just have to
I'm
do one.
I'm
I
guilty.
haven't ordered one yet. No, but yeah, no,
Finally.
they actually do look really cool as a print too, because you have the dimension in it, you know. But yeah, the originals are just it's cool because every single one of them is unique, obviously. But like my agent actually, he's been so supportive always of my, you know, obviously my film career, but just everything. And so he bought um a huge Alfred Hitchcock piece. And so it's like made out of vinyl. And then he bought a Beatles one. So, but he wanted all the vinyl to be Beatles, obviously. So,
Oh,
but yeah, so it's like,
that's a little challenging.
yeah, so I was like, okay. So yeah, but that's the cool part is when you know, I've had people commission a Britney Spears one and then they want a Britney vinyl on it. And so it's cool to have that other challenge and making that even like a deeper, um, like love for that whole actually a cool one that someone commissioned. This guy was like, hey, he's like, my grandpa just passed away and I would really love to give, you know, a gift of, you know, to his wife, a picture of him. So he sent like 3 pictures of his grandpa. I chose the one I think that'd be the best for working with negative space, but he also mailed me a huge packet of all of his grandpa's vinyl. And so he's like, I would love to make it out of his stuff. So it was like a very cool thing for them. They emailed me and they're like, this is the most beautiful thing. Like she was like crying. And it's just cool because it had a lot of meaning to it, you know, besides just being like, I'm like, I can do Jack Skellington or like whatever, but this one had so much heart and so meaning. It was just cool to do something like that for somebody. It was like, wow.
That anytime that I've done paintings of my own. I'm involved with the Freemasons out here, and so I did a series of 10 skulls that I hand painted, and then I've got a couple that went out your direction to Hal Sparks, and I think he put one somewhere, and I think the other one's in his house. But it was cool to see where these ended up, you know, just throughout the country. And you're like, you know, and then you forget about them. And sometimes you just kind of walk into a place and you're like, oh, I did that.
That's so cool. I would love to see like some of those things. Like, do you still have some or
I might still have one. I'm probably going to do another series. I just haven't done much painting. Like I was for real, I was just in a funk. Like this entire past year interrupted my gym schedule. Number one, I was doing really good. I was feeling good about myself. And then two, it was just, you know, moving and getting resettled. And then you just kind of, sometimes you just sit there and it's like your brain turns off and you don't do anything. And I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm in a funk. Like you have to like vocalize like, I'm in a funk and I have to do something different, which is why I started this. So I was lucky towards it was like the middle, yeah, like the middle of the pandemic. Adam started TikTok and I was like, oh, okay, this guy's kind of cool. And then I was joking, like, we should play Halo. And he's like, okay. I was like, oh, all right. So we've got this group of people that we play Halo with at night. And through talking with him, I was like, I'm very curious about the film industry and why does a film cost $50 million to make? And, you know, what did you do to start? Like, what are your memorization tactics? And I've learned a lot through this whole process. And I was like, you know, I just need to talk to other people, you know, and share my experiences, be it like photography, which is, I love it. And I promised this lady I would never say that it was an accident. I just fell into it. So I'm not going to say that. But I kind of did, you know, and, you know, I shot a lot of concerts. And now what's cool is that I'm able to catch up with these people and I can get their stories and what they've been up to. Cause now that I've known a lot of them for about the length of time that I've known you. So, you know, I get to share those stories with, you know, other people. And I was like, how would I do that? And you know, pretty much Adam was like, podcast. I was like, oh, speaking of,
you're like,
here. Hold on. Let's get him in here real quick. Adam.
Hello.
Adam, this is Colton.
Oh, well, hi.
Hello, how are you?
Adam Wiley.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Were your ears burning? I was just talking about you.
Yes, they are
Oh.
big enough to burn.
No,
Well, thanks. I appreciate you talking. What were you talking about? I hope whatever he said, it's not true, Colton. Believe nothing. What did you say?
No, I was telling Colton about how you and I met basically on TikTok, and we've got our own little group of Halo people. And through talking with you and your experience, because Adam's been acting since he was like 4. And, you know,
Close
and
enough.
I was
3. I feel like
5.5, but close enough. So close.
No, I was gonna say, I feel like we have all of us have like a bunch of mutual friends, because I feel like I feel like I've been on a set with you or worked with you with like someone. I'm trying to think who it would have been, but yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah,
like for sure. How are you? What have you guys been talking about? Catch me up, even though I'm here for the last 15 minutes. 20 minutes, whatever.
You're good. We were just catching up with what Colton's been up to and our Halo nights and how
they're so good. You got to come on, man, if you play Halo. I don't know if you play Halo if you have an Xbox, but
don't play video games, period.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. They're not for everybody.
Well, it's just like, I mean, actually, I guess I do have a Nintendo, like a Switch, and because I love Mario Kart and like Mario Party.
Yeah, Mario Kart's great.
And it's more like just, again, it's like a social thing for me. It's like if the friends come over and like we all want
to
fun. And again, like you guys with like I'm so bad. My brother was like totally into Halo and like whatever, you know, I just like grabbing the remote control like up and down, and I'm just like, okay, cool, I really can't do this. And I didn't.
It's a confusing game because you're looking all around and having to shoot things at the same time. And if that's not something that you either grew up with or are used to, it is very confusing. And a lot of people stare at the sky and do circles, and it's really, really fun. It's it looks like just someone doing constant pirouettes, and I'm just like, yes, you foite your ass off. And it's really, that's all I do. And then I throw a sticky grenade at their head, and I run and I laugh. And I do that to Justin too, even though he knows what he's doing. I mean, every once in a while, you'll just hear, explode. And he's like, and Justin's not trash at the game, so it's very fun for me.
That's hilarious. Yeah, see, no, I again, I wish I was more in video games, but again, I was kind of telling him, because I started making movies as a kid, and like when most kids were playing, you know, video games, we were just like making movies as kids, like just loved it. Like even it was like just stupid little stuff, but it was what we spent all of our time doing. So I never really
and now TikTok gives you that platform to actually make those movies, you know, a 30-second reality or minute reality, even 3 minutes now, if that's an option. It's not an option for me, but
and the way they're made too, it's like, you know, people are expecting it not to be like some full high production quality like product, but people like love it. And speaking of that, actually, this is funny. This is my first time that I ever directed something specifically for TikTok, and it was this last, I don't know if you saw it, Justin, but I don't know if you guys know who Lance Bass is, but you know, he was a member.
Of course. Yeah. He is the bass, ironically enough, of NSYNC.
Oh my gosh. He, it's so weird because he actually came to, we have a bunch of mutual friends, but he came to one of the premieres of one of my recent short films called Killer Date. And he was like, this is so good. And so it was that funny transition of like being friends and then him being like, okay, I want to work with this person. And so he actually is developing him and his production company, one of my new latest features, which I'm so excited. I'll tell you a little bit about it, but it was funny. So he and his husband announced the fact that they're going to have kids. Well, they were going to announce it. And he's like, they're going to be born in October. They're having twins. And he's like, so Colton, you have to direct a trailer. And TikTok partnered with them, and like it was like coming this October, and it was like made to look like an actual horror film, but it was announcing that they're having kids. Like, so
that's
it was
adorable.
I did see that.
Yeah.
There it is again. There's something in this house. I most certainly feel a presence here. More than one. Who's there?
It's okay. It's me. Michael, look. Oh.
Yeah, it was fun because like, but that one was shot specifically for TikTok, like in the aspect ratio and everything. And so, that yeah. So speaking of TikTok, I thought it was interesting.
That's so cool that you directed that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so awesome, man.
And then
that is so much fun.
yeah, it's like I was just telling Justin too. I just directed a feature last January, and we sold it this January to a studio. So it's coming out this fall, winter. It's a winter horror film. But yeah, like I was saying, like Lance is producing my newest feature, and it's called Sketch, and this is like the project I'm most passionate about at the moment, and it's a horror film, but again, it falls within the style that I do. It's very like fantastical in a way where I can't say too much because I don't want to ruin it for you guys because it's so cool. Like, but like, because like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's just, it's in a whole realm that you guys, no one's really seen before. Like you've seen it in a different way, but not the genre, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're actually shooting, they want to shoot it before the end of this year. So it's going to be exciting.
That's really cool. Where are you planning to film it?
I don't see that's what we were kind of we're breaking down all the locations yesterday, and you know, I always love coming home to Utah to film stuff there because I have so many, but I've built such a like an arsenal of crew out here now in LA. Like I never thought that was really going to happen, you know, because you move from somewhere else, like everyone, all my gaffers, everyone's out there, and then here it's almost like the crew out here that I know is larger than in Utah now. So, but it's just finding the locations and stuff that's not $1 million bajillion because LA is so expensive to film, you know.
Yeah, I do have a question about that. So you've written a lot of horror movies, you've directed a lot of these things. What would you say that if somebody wanted to fund their own film should be a typical average budget that they should try to look at for something that is a quality production?
I love how you worded that.
Well,
that was perfect.
But see, this is such an interesting loaded question too, because everything differs. Like for me, because I do direct and edit and produce and a lot of my own stuff, a lot of that budget gets cut down on stuff that you would not normally need to spend on, you know, like someone else.
Absolutely, because you're putting on multiple hats.
Exactly. But so the feature that we actually did in January, I was also one of the actors in it. So it was like it was a 5-cast. These you know, this group gets stuck in a cabin because they get snowed in, and then it becomes like your mind is your own worst enemy. They can't go to sleep because they're going to freeze to death. So hypothermia kicks in. Right. So it was one of those things. But again, that project was a feature, and it looks amazing. Like I said, we sold it, but it was like bare bones. Like, you know, we probably made it for like $50,000, which was like,
whoa, what? That is the cheapest thing I've ever heard in my life.
But again, that's what I'm saying. It's so crazy because that budget. So I can't really I don't know what numbers even to give you because like we pulled this off for 50,000 and we sold it and made plus. You know,
I gotta tell you that you have told me more than enough I need to know for the question. Justin knows the question. All right, look. I'm going to just kind of give you a little insight without ratting out some people. Yeah. So I'm doing a project. That's a horror movie project, and it's a friend's production company or a production they're wanting to put up. But the amount they're trying to raise to me is insanity.
It's insane. You're like,
I go, why would anybody need to make a look? In my opinion, you could make one of the best horror films in the world with $1.2 million. Yes. That budget would give you the option to do so much. See, they are asking for 5 times that amount.
See, but when stuff happens like that, like with our movie, we made art with bare bones because we know we could do it, and we, you know. When so much money starts to go into play, it's like, where is this money going to? And then people know that
what I said.
They start to ask a lot. Like, you know, for example, like, you know, when I did this Disney Channel thing, you know, I got my director's fee for, you know, the budget that we were dealing with. And it's like the normal fee. But it's like when that much money is all of a sudden put into play, these directors are getting paid like $750,000 just as it's like, why does that person need to get paid that much money to direct it? It just, I understand when it's like, but do you know what I'm saying? People could be making a lot more movies for a lot cheaper if these rates weren't out, because it's all going to like these, you know what I'm saying? The rates are outrageous.
Here's my feel on making a good movie. My number one concern is making good entertainment. I would happily take lower pay, maybe even points on the back end, to make something that's really great, that's going to get sold, that turns into the next, I don't like this movie, but that turns into the next Blair Witch Project.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Something that blows up, because then everybody's happy. Careers are made from movies like that. Worry about making the entertainment as good as it possibly can be. The rest will follow, because the success of what you put into it, plus the company you sold it to distribute it, it will get the buzz. It will get the feed. It will become the Napoleon Dynamite, which is a complete Utah Mormon made film that, nobody like really realizes. And then it blows up. And look at John Heater's career. Look at a lot of the people's career that have come out of that. Make the good entertainment your priority, and not paying somebody $1 million. That doesn't mean they're going to guaranteed to do a good job.
Exactly. See, and that's one of the things too, like Napoleon Dynamite, like they were made for an Paranormal Activity, like such a low amount of money. But again, you never know what's going to blow up and what's not. But like
Paranormal Activity was so good.
It was so good. But for me and my projects, we've been able to pull them off for a lot lower than what have happened. Because again, I do wear all these hats and just have a bunch of passionate people coming in to create. But my movies are very, again, they fall within like the horror / whimsical like realm, where like something like Paranormal Activity is very like grounded in reality. And I'm talking about like sets and stuff like that, where it's like you're not, my stuff, I'm creating, like I was telling Justin, like a whole new world. There's, you're not dealing with just a normal.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
You do like normal flowers, like you want like monster flowers, and like, you know what I'm saying, like wardrobe is different. It's usually like in like Stepford era, like, so it's just the budgets are like you're saying, it's the entertainment. Like, put that money, instead of paying someone all this extra, like put it into the quality of this product and like what we're going to see, because that's what people want to see, and it's about finding the people who are like yeah, we just want to make something amazing. And so instead of paying people $1 million, you're putting it into the quality of the product, obviously.
Dude, I so agree with you about all of that. It drives me crazy to have such a huge budget and paying unnecessary amounts for things. Worry about entertaining people.
Like horror, though, like you're saying, if the one that you're developing right now is a horror film, it's like you can do horror cheaper than most.
Very cheap. So that's horror movies are the cheapest to make.
Yeah, and typically the ones that get the most return, because people always love horror.
Mm-hmm.
And,
absolutely, people love to be scared or attempted to be scared, or it creates a lot of buzz. Even the bad horror movies do pretty well.
Well, I mean, most of them get picked up. So like, there's so many distribution companies that just like they just buy horror, like.
It's cheap for them too.
100%. Yep. So that's why, like, when you say the budget for that, it's like, what kind of horror film is this? You know what I mean? It's like, you're like,
it's a big superhero horror film.
Is it?
No.
No. Like, interesting.
No. like from my conversations with Adam, it's always been like he's always kind of guided me as far as like, as far as budgets, this is why they get it expensive, and this is why they're spendy, and there's post and stuff like that. And then he's like, yeah, this one is they want like 6.2, and I'm just like, wow, that's so much money. And you're like, yeah, I did it for like 50 grand.
Yeah, see, my producer never, she's like, just please don't be telling people because you never want people to know. But for me, the reason I'm saying that is because you can pull off, we made a feature film in 6 days with that budget. And again, it's possible. Anything is possible if you want to like really make it happen. And like, there was no egos involved in this whole thing. There was no like money, you know what I'm saying? Like we spent money on what needed to be spent to make this movie happen. But again, even that one number, like 6.2, is like, where did the 0.2 come from? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you look into that and like, where does this break down to? But it's interesting. It's interesting that I wish I had more of like a specific answer for that. But again, I feel like it just always differs with what budget you're dealing with, what type of story, like what's happening. Because the one that I'm doing now with Lance is like the elements of it. Like I said, it's based in horror. It's like Scream meets Nightmare on Elm Street meets like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's like very like it's a fantasy.
That sounds fun.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you just tickled the inner child in me that went, "Ooh, I want to see this movie."
See, that was the point.
I watched all of those in one day.
So yeah, no,
I was
like,
that kid.
but so again, with the budget for that one, that you have to there's definitely money that has to be in specific parts of it to pull off the style of this movie, because it's definitely very unique in a way where it's like, you know, I would rather just not get paid a rate to put it into, like you said, or like back end points to make this happen and make
Yes.
it, because what's the point of like making something that's not going to turn out like what you want it to be, you know? So it's like I would rather just put in that extra time. That's what we did with that feature. A lot of us worked just, again, it was my concept. So it's like, I feel like as a director and a creator, it's like most of the times when you go into these situations, you're not going to be making anything until you sell it, you know, which we did, which is great. So, you know, then you take that money and make something else.
100%. Now, I know I'm late to the party, so I apologize if I'm just
Somebody
repeating
had to get a
information.
salad.
Listen, I need to lose weight. So,
I think that was right.
Seriously, you're not the
Not
only
gonna lie.
one here.
yeah, Colton.
Yeah.
I'm the one who actually works out regularly. Hey, so I know I'm late to the party, but I'm gonna go ahead and
say it.
So, did you grow up in Utah? Where did you grow up? Where are you now?
I am in LA now. I grew up in Utah. Born and raised my whole life. I was telling him I started so young because my next door neighbor was a film director producer. He was shooting a lot of stuff for the LDS church, and so his daughter was my same age, and he was like, "Do you guys want to be extras on this commercial?" And we're like, "Yeah," like as kids, and we just like loved it. And then he taught us iMovie like that same year. He forced us to learn Final Cut fluently by the time we were 14, like Photoshop. So started young, grew up there, was doing film there, got scholarships to college, and then I was directing movies. My first legitimate one that went to festivals was when I was 17. And then my bigger one that was really the style that I want, you know, was like found my, like, this is what I'm passionate about, this style. And then had a manager see it in LA, represented me. I moved out to LA with my producing partner, and I've been here ever since, and been so fortunate to, I literally have had consistent work since I've moved here.
You That's awesome, man.
The biggest thing that Adam recommends, like he gives advice. That's good. You missed.
Yes, I do.
is that he's like, well, in order for you to actually do and make and have work, consistent work, is you need to be in the places where they're making things, you know, and you move.
Networking is such a big part of it that it's not impossible to work if you don't live in the big epicenter. What I'm just saying is that the networking is worth its weight in gold, and you can't network if they don't see you regularly.
See, you're exactly right. And also, even just like, for example, the thing I just directed for Disney Channel, it's like I was on set with all the people that I've met before. They're introducing me to some of the newer people. And then the girl that was over development before, now she's over development at Netflix. And it's like, but if you don't see them, do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you need to be with each other. Like, you run into each other, get coffee, even if it's just like catching up like that.
Exactly.
Speaking
of which, where do you live? Where do you go get coffee? I'm gonna go get coffee, and I'm gonna accidentally run into you.
It's called Priscilla's. It's in Toluca Lake. It's like by Burbank, so it's like right by those two.
I know where that is.
It's so their blueberry coffee is so delicious.
It's really good. I've had it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I haven't had Priscilla's coffee.
Dude, it's great. There's a little theater next door. It's right across the street from Bob's Big Boy. You gotta go.
Yep,
you gotta
go. All right. I'm trying to come down this month or over.
Bro,
I'm trying to come across this month.
I got you. We will go to Priscilla's. It's right near the Gary Marshall Theater. I live in Calabasas, but
okay.
I am a traveler. So I have lived everywhere from the Inland Empire to Calabasas and everywhere in between. I'm a human GPS, so you don't have to tell me much about where anything is.
Well,
as you can tell,
we should definitely go to Priscilla's one of these days because we have to. But I was going to say, but like he was saying, you don't have to live out here. But for me, why I love it out here and why I've been here now for almost 10 years in December, it's obviously the networking, but it's, for me, I love being around people who want to do exactly what you want to do. I'm surrounded by other directors, by actors, and it's like, it just makes you work that much harder. You're like, if I don't work harder, someone else is going to do it. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but so if I see,
it might as well be you. Why not you?
No, literally, if you go to a coffee shop like Priscilla's, everyone's like writing scripts, and it's like, cool. Like, you know, it makes you want to work that much harder to make these things happen. It's like,
it's a creative environment.
100%.
So like from my experience with you, I had enough of the taste. I was like, I want to somehow be involved with this. Like, I'm not going to be an actor. you know, and I'm definitely not a writer, but I love to observe and I love to learn, you know. So one way, you know, be, you know, usually with Adam, and he's given me, you know, insider stuff, you know, as far as tips and advice and whatnot. And, you know, so my involvement is talking to people like you and talking with people like Adam and, you know, building those relationships that way. But it's all about, you know, networking and keeping your head on straight and doing what you love, you know.
Yeah.
So it's inspirational. It keeps you motivated.
I also think that you just hit the nail on the head, Justin, with the keeping your head on straight. A lot of people in this industry, they start working, and then all of a sudden they do become too big for their britches. And it's a very interesting thing to expect, number one, to come out here and be a star within a month. That's never going to happen. No one's ever done that. And if they do, it was dumb luck. They won the lottery.
Yeah.
Right? You have to put in the hard work. A lot of these overnight successes are 10-year overnight successes or more in the making.
Yeah.
And they have done so many little jobs to get where they are now that it's insane. You're just hearing about them now, but then you see, oh, they guest starred on this show and on this show, and they did this commercial, and then they did this music video, and they danced for this person who then gave them the opportunity to do this. And then they, oh, you sing as well. Okay, great. And then because they danced and sang in this little track, they gave, oh, you can act. So they gave them this movie deal because they needed someone who could sing this little part. And you don't know where things are going to lead, right?
Yep.
But like, and then a lot of people, when they find that success, all of a sudden they get these egos and they start working less. You work less.
Yeah.
You know, we have a great job. We get to do a lot of amazing things, see a lot of amazing stuff that not a lot of people get to see.
No.
But to be a good person to work with is really important as well, that people have fun creating with you.
So funny. See, again, late to the party. So no, we did say we kind of touched on this because I was telling him, you know, some of like my process as a director, because even the Disney thing I just did, I always wrap ahead of time, because they were like, Colton, especially during the pandemic, a full day is usually 12 hours. Now it's like 10 hours because of COVID. And so we had basically, you know, there's an hour setup, an hour breakdown, 8 hours of shooting this. And they're like, Colton, your shot list is pretty large, but obviously we trust you. So let's do this. And we wrapped early. And every project I've done, we always wrap ahead of time because everyone's having a good time. That's what I told him. I said, I as a kid growing up, I always observed other filmmakers. And I was like, and directors, and I'm like, how do they work and how are they communicating with people? Because there's the directors that snap and they're yelling at people because it's fear driven, and like they want people to be scared of them. And it's like, that works to a certain extent, but then people aren't having a good time and wanting to come back for you. And like, I want people, like, I will laugh with people. I'll like, well, I do, but I'm getting work done while you're having people have a good time, because they're having a good time. They're going to work extra hard just because they want to be there and they're having fun. And I think there's that balance, is like you were saying, it's like keeping your head on straight, having a good environment for people to work, because then they're going to want to come back. You're building those relationships where, you know, it's just,
people genuinely get excited to go to work.
Exactly.
You know, when that happens.
Well, I've been like, again, situations where you like people, you're like, oh my God, that producer is so crazy. I don't even want to go, but you have to, it's your job, you know? Like, so it's, yeah, that's one of those things. Like, I guess it boils down to keeping your head on straight. It's like just knowing, because again, when they start yelling, or if you're not having a good time, like you said, ego just boils down to that. It's truly just an ego thing. So
100%.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's one of the things that I strive for, is to just make sure people are having fun, because they need to be.
Well, I look forward to your next project. Like,
So,
I always try to keep always try to keep up with what you're doing, and it seems like that California is suiting you well, you know, and you're staying creative, and I get excited for you. It's just like I get excited for Adam. He's like, I got an episode of, I'm on an episode of Lucifer, and I'm like, that's the shit. Yes. You know,
so excited about it.
So excited for that.
It's so funny. Actually, a bunch of people have been mentioning that show to me recently, because they're like, I cannot believe you don't watch it. Like,
it's a good show.
I just don't watch a lot of TV, but when I do, it's like Bates Motel. I loved Dexter, that new season coming back.
Oh, nice.
Wait.
What?
Have you not heard about this?
No.
Hold on.
Insider dirt.
I was right now years old when I learned that Dexter faked his own death Spoiler alert. Well, I got to say that before I say that. Faked his own death, is now living in Alaska, doing construction under no name, creepily smiling at a camera, and now he is back to kill more people. And his dark passenger is going to be arriving again. I'm excited.
Thank God, right? Dark Passenger. I'm so excited for it, you guys. I'm supposed to release this fall.
Oh my God, I would give my left testicle to be on that show.
Do it. It's like 35 grand to sell one.
Yeah, because that's easy. That's how it works. I would do that and still not get a call back. Oh, thank you. It
like
said Adam Wiley in the breakdown, and you have to sell your left testicle. We'll call you.
He's like, cool. Wait, so when are you going to shoot Lucifer?
Oh, I already did.
Oh, you already shot it.
Season
Cool.
6
So like,
is dropping now.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. So like when you were telling me about the face shields and everything, it completely reminded
me. And the pods, the security pods.
Yeah, the pods. Adam was like, okay, so this was the weirdest experience, but this is what we had to do. And I was just like, oh my God. He's like, yeah, it's a little weird, but we got it done. You know, so you're like, yeah, it's weird, but we get it done. It's weird
because you're not rehearsing on camera anymore. You're rehearsing very, very little, just talking about it. And then it's, okay, we're shooting. And you're like, ah.
Yeah, that's so weird. Like, see, for the Disney one, first of all, it was funny because like, obviously the budgets for them are bigger because it's Disney Channel, but it was bigger. So we were going to shoot on a soundstage and create this Batcave that I wanted to see, this neon Batcave. And then they're like, well, COVID procedures happen now, so budget's going down. So now that we had to go to a practical location. So we found this practical cave, but then since it was COVID, they weren't allowing anyone to shoot there. So then we're like, cool. So we ended up in Burbank on a soundstage. It was actually really, really cool. It was an entire digital stage, LED walls, floor, everything. So, but that was a whole process of collaborating with my storyboard artists and like the visual, like, you know, the animators and everything. So we, on the day, I would say, okay, scene 16, and all of a sudden, boom, everything would be that environment that she was in. It was actually really
one of those in my house.
Literally, it reminds me of Smart House, that Disney movie, like as a kid. But the fact that the floor was LED, it was cool because we built we only had one practical set. It was her bedroom that we replicated from this show, and the floor, when she goes into her dreamscape, she goes to sleep and the floor goes like sucks under her bed because it's all LED. So it was just really cool.
Whoa!
Yeah, to be able to play with stuff.
Like I bet that costs.
Oh, absolutely.
I could totally put a wall behind me or something.
You could.
I think it cost $6.2 million.
That's six.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we're back.
Point two is the key here. Good night. No,
I'll take 0.2. I'll buy a house with 0.2.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That'll work.
Just be like, I just need 0.2. I'd take.
I just need 0.2.
0.1. I'd pay.
I would take 0.001 at this point.
You're like, at this point, please. Oh my gosh.
Well, I'm glad that you're staying busy. I'm glad that you're doing well. I'm just happy to see your success, and you know, it's like with all my friends, is I love to see everybody succeed, you know, and to see that people are doing what they love to do. You know, COVID was weird. It seems like it's starting to let up a little bit now, and that hit a lot of my actor friends hard. So I'm looking forward to see everybody get back to work and you know, just feel normal again. You know,
it's slowly happening, surely, and in LA especially, you know, as you know, Adam, too, like it's starting to feel more real now, like
a little bit. I do think Gavin Newsom it has been a little more tight, unnecessarily at times, than a lot of other governors in the United States, and that's been really hard on performers like us. And you know, we've had to make our living digitally, which is not easy, and building, you know, social media platforms and all of these things. And that is just a different animal that if you're not used to it, you're learning something completely new, and it's beneficial. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's been quite a ride to try to figure out how to still stay creative and perform and in the public eye and make money.
Yep.
With all of this going on. And I'm really happy that we slowly figured out a way to make everything safe, because COVID is such a tricky thing. But I'm also really glad that things are loosening up, because I do believe that we are figuring out how to work with this, because it's never going to go away. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
It's always going to be here. It's always going to be a part of our lives in some shape or form, but we can't just live in our houses forever.
Yeah, no. And like, see, I don't know. I think it's like, luckily for me out here, the crew that I just did that feature with, we all kind of stayed with each other during this whole pandemic and like stayed creative. Like my DP owns his own red. So like, we literally would like write, like, you know, one of the actors, like I would write a short and we'd be like, let's shoot it. It's like the next day we just like get together, like make some really, really amazing content just to stay creative this whole like pandemic. So it was cool to be able to do that.
I'd love to do something like that. Like yeah. I have thoughts. So I can't write. Adam writes. I don't. We had this whole discussion. You're late to the party, but you write. And
sorry, man.
I don't get it. But you're like, oh, I'll just do a rewrite, and it was fantastic. And it was like in a day and a half. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, my ideas of like a film is like a very abstract, very. I don't know how to explain it, but that they remind me of like the old psychological films from like the 50s and the 60s, where it just makes you completely uneasy. And I'm like, I wonder if I could do this with a DSLR.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm like, okay, so how would I do that? And you know, so you know, the problem I have is that I don't have very many inspirational people here with me, so maybe one of these days we'll figure something out.
Yeah, so
we'll make something.
Come out here, we'll all go to Priscilla's and make some art. You know,
absolutely. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. This has been going on for like an hour and 20 minutes, but I'm really glad Adam stopped by to eat a salad.
You know, man, I do what I can, and I can what I do. I don't know what that means. But I'm actually really happy to be able to meet you, Colton, and at least chat for a little bit.
You've come up in conversations a couple of times.
Yeah.
So, wow. I mean, that's
and
weird.
I'm like,
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm saying, we should definitely meet up out here because, you know, that blueberry coffee.
I'm in, man. Whenever I'm going to follow you on the TikTok right now.
Yes.
So
and
if I'm not already following you.
Do you have Instagram too?
I don't know.
So
I do. I gram on the Instas.
Absolutely. It is this is Adam Wiley on Instagram and on TikTok.
This is?
Yes.
Yeah. Apparently there are other Adam Wileys.
Yeah, Adam Wiley -2.2.
Or there's Adam Wiley _ private someone, and then they used my real profile picture.
Okay.
Like
Adam, that's when you know you've made it.
I just followed you on
or pissed somebody off. Like it's one or the other.
It's probably
it's probably a little bit of column A, more of column B.
Yeah, we should find that out. Let's do that someday. And then Justin, you need to get out here. So
we'll all have
hopefully it'll be this month
at Priscilla's.
Yeah, that sounds so good. God dang.
So amazing.
I need coffee.
I like blueberry anything. You give me a blueberry, I'm like, yeah. Muffin, pancake, cereal, coffee,
candy
in my belly. Candy, yes.
A blueberry candy. Oh, we're on something.
Miss Marita's has blueberry candy.
Yeah.
Do they?
I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have a blueberry flavor. I got some secret flavors sent to me.
Yeah,
I can't talk about it. I'm really excited.
Scott
I gave my input. On the new Miss Marita's flavors, and my critiques, which mean nothing, only that I eat too much Miss Marita's candy.
You do. You eat a lot of candy. Colton.
Yeah.
You clearly don't eat a lot of candy.
I do not eat a lot of candy. But
so that's the other thing I need to get with you with is figure out what you're doing for your diet at some point.
Well, I see the thing for me is like I do intermittent fasting till about 2, so I don't eat.
Okay, so I'm confused by that. Hal Sparks does the same thing, right?
Okay.
But I don't understand what it is. Like, are you supposed to
what is intermittent
eat
fasting?
for like an hour, or is there a certain caloric intake you're taking in at that point?
Well, at the beginning before that, like you're supposed to stop. It's like an 18-hour like fast, like where you just have no food. Period. You can have any liquid you want, like not like water, you know. and coffee you can have, but it's basically when your body goes without food for like that a certain amount of that length of time, that's when your body starts to actually like act it like so there's like this stage, I think it's called like a coffee gear or something like that, but like it's like 20 hours because I did a 24-hour fast one time, but your body goes into this stage at only 20 hours. It never does it otherwise, and it starts to eat like old like dead cells and like rejuvenate this like the sick ones. Like your body never does that on its own until it just has no food because it's forced to do it on its own. So there's just a lot of different health benefits by not like eating and doing intermittent fasting. But for me, I don't do like the 20-hour one. I do 18. So I stop eating like at, I don't know what time at night, and I don't eat till 2. And I work out fasted as well, so without food in my stomach. And I feel like I just get yeah.
How do you do that? How do you
I
work
feel like-
out without food in your stomach?
I don't know.
I'd be like, nah. I'd be eating a muffin while jogging.
I feel like I get a better workout like that. Like honestly,
Really?
because like if I work out with like too much food in my stomach, I'm like, ugh, I just feel like nasty, you know. So
Feel bloated.
Yeah, I get that.
so it's good. Like I work out empty stomach, like have an amazing workout, and then after that, you like. But again, I never overeat. That's one of my key things too. Is like I never. Like I'm not like on a diet where I have to. If I want a burger, like if I crave a burger right now, I'm gonna eat a burger and fries. But I also just don't overindulge ever. Like people are like, oh, it's Thanksgiving, so I'm of course gonna just eat like so much food because that's what people naturally do. And I'm like, I'm just gonna eat a normal portion like I normally would, and that's the end of that. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's just like knowing how much you're
Yeah, because
consuming.
I've been meaning to have this conversation with you for a long time because you've always been fit.
Yeah, I think it's just because I truly I do eat whatever I want, but I am conscious about just eating healthier, but I also just again don't overindulge in anything.
Yeah,
And
don't overdo it.
I just think that's what it is. It's like, you know, some people do intermittent fasting, get screwed over too because they're like, okay, so I'm not gonna eat for this 18 hours, and then as soon as 2 hits, they're like, I'm starving, and so then they just eat so much food. So it's like, what's the point? You know what I mean? It's finding that balance of like not eating, giving myself that structure of the certain hours where you don't eat, and like and then working out fasted because I think that helps. And then throughout the rest of the day, I eat normal. Like, you know, if I'm gonna have like lunch, I'll have again like a salad or like or chicken and broccoli and you know rice or whatever. But it's just not it's not overdoing it. And if I go to Burger King, I'll get like fries and like a sandwich. But like I'm not gonna order like
Right.
3, you know,
You're not gonna get like the extra large with the
like
with
yeah.
with like a
So
cheesecake and
I mean that literally is like the key. And again, like I'm lucky for me, I don't like sweets. Like you just said, like cheesecake. I just don't like. I've never really liked sweets very much. I have a couple things that like.
Forgive me, I have to start driving.
He's like bye, but
Bye.
bye. But okay, well, I'll let you guys go. Speaking of, I need to go to the gym and
Yes, absolutely. All right.
Yeah, you
ladies
need
and
to work
gentlemen.
on getting 10 abs. Wow, 10. Look
10.
at that. I didn't even know 8 was still possible. I have now abs on my kneecap.